Now that is a challenge. That is a challenge.
The star actor who played Mozart didn't even know how to play piano. The director was under surveillance during the entire filming by the Czechoslovakian secret police. The reason for Elizabeth Berridge's revealing decolletage is due to another woman breaking her ankle, and Tom Halsey studied the tantrums of a certain tennis star to better prepare for his role as Mozart.
How could you do that? I want to know how you possibly could do that.
I'll explain all of this and if the movie Amadeus is worthy of watching a movie night. Let's get into it. Amadeus is the 53rd best film of all time, as ranked by the American Film Institute. Amadeus is a 1984 biographical drama film directed by Milos Forman, who also directed another top 100 film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The movie Amadeus is based on Peter Shaffer's stage play of the same name. The film presents a fictionalized account of the life of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, as told from the perspective of his contemporary and rival Antonio Salieri. Set in Vienna during the latter half of the 18th century, the story explores Salieri's envy and bitterness towards the younger, more talented Mozart, whom he believes to be divinely gifted yet vulgar and immature. Salieri's obsession leads him to conspire against Mozart while grappling with his own feelings of inadequacy and betrayal by God. The film is celebrated for its lavish production design, historical authenticity, and compelling performances, particularly by Tom Halsey as Mozart and Murray Abraham as Salieri. Amadeus received widespread critical acclaim and won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Abraham. Here are some of the major awards it won. There were 3 things in this movie that grabbed my attention and just would not let go. First was Tom Halsey's portrayal of Mozart. Second is the look and sound of the film, and third is Antonio Salieri. Let's talk about Tom Halsey's Mozart. Mozart is hilarious in this movie. Mozart is a musical savant, genius, prodigy, phenom, but is also a lecherous, lusty party animal who likes to fart and make butt jokes, all while cackling like a hyena. To see a historical figure so highly regarded giggle and fart and cavort around like a wild party animal was highly entertaining. He's like the rock star of classical composers, minus the leather pants. This contrasts sharply with his counterpart Salieri, who is a devout, pious man of God. If you're over 30, skip ahead in the video 10 seconds. For those under 30, think of Mozart as SpongeBob and Salieri as Squidward, except he plays the piano instead of the clarinet. That's the vibe for most of this movie. Tom Halsey beat out stiff competition for the role, beating out Mark Hamill, Tim Curry, Mel Gibson, and even David Bowie. Surprisingly, Halsey did not play piano prior to his role as Mozart. He only played guitar. But he was assured by director Forman that they could cheat it. The majority of scenes were dubbed over by professional pianists. However, Halsey still practiced hours a day for months to ensure that his hands would match the music being played. Furthermore, Halsey has stated that to capture Mozart's fiery temper and passionate outbursts, he studied the tantrums of tennis player John McEnroe, as not only did he often make a scene, but he was super talented as well. However, Mozart isn't all just farts and giggles while tickling the ivory. There are several serious scenes where Mozart is deeply troubled and vulnerable with personal and financial hardships. Halsey's portrayal effectively balances comedic elements with the tragic aspects of Mozart's life. His ability to switch from lighthearted scenes to moments of profound despair helps convey the full arc of Mozart's life and career and is what earned Halsey's Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Simply put, for me, Tom Halsey's Mozart makes this movie. Let's move on to the look and the sound. Look and listen to this. The scene where Mozart is directing the opera Don Giovanni is performed for the film at the same stage at the Estates Theatre in Prague, where the opera first appeared with Mozart himself directing it in real life, centuries before. How cool is that? Overall, for the look, the movie is visually appealing. Director Milos Forman chose to film the entire film in Prague, what was then Czechoslovakia, now it's Czechia, not only because it was more affordable to shoot there, but because it was visually perfect for the film background. Many of the buildings are the same as they were when Mozart was walking the streets centuries ago. Director Milos Forman was Czechoslovakian. He started his film career in Prague. However, in the early 70s, the communist government purged most of the country's artists of all mediums, including film, in order to focus on industry. In order to film Amadeus in the still communist country, Mr. Forman promised to not visit his former friends that were listed as dissidents by the government. To ensure this, secret police followed the production team during the 6 months of filming. The main reason why Czechoslovakia even allowed filming to begin with was to be paid in American dollars from the studio. During the filming on the 4th of July, the cast and crew pulled off a memorable 4th of July prank. To celebrate American Independence Day, they decided to unfurl an American flag in the concert hall where they were filming and have the 600-plus member cast and crew sing the Star-Spangled Banner. This act was particularly daring and provocative given the current political climate at the time. The production team were frequently monitored by the secret police, and there were real fears that such a bold display of American patriotism could be seen as inciting rebellion against the communist regime. The cast and crew were worried that their actions might lead to their arrest. Fortunately, their fears did not come to pass.
I get goose pimples when I think about it. All the extras stood up and either sang or hummed the Star-Spangled Banner with us.
Back to the look of the film. The costumes are tremendous, almost as colorful as one of Richardson's workout videos. The costumes in Amadeus are meticulously crafted to reflect the lavish style of the period, with characters like Mozart and Salieri often seen in elaborate period-appropriate attire that conveys their social status and personality. The costumes are so authentic that the cast sometimes wore genuine 18th century undergarments. The costume designer Theodore Pistek went to great lengths to ensure historical accuracy, which paid off with an Academy Award for Best Costume Design. Speaking of costumes, let me explain why Elizabeth Berridge's costume was so revealing. Meg Tilly was originally cast as Constanze Mozart, but she had to withdraw from her role after suffering a broken ankle while the cast were playing an impromptu soccer game in the street between film sessions. Elizabeth Berridge was then brought in as her last-minute replacement, and rather than completely redesign custom costumes for her, the production team instead adjusted the existing outfits that were designed for Meg Tilly to be fit for Berridge. However, they didn't really fit her. The quick adaptation was necessary to keep the production on schedule and avoid delays, and explains her eye-popping garb. For the lighting, modern lighting was not used. Instead, they just used natural light, whether from the sun or from flame. This is most notable during operas where candlelight is in full effect. While I was watching the operas, I felt like I traveled in a time machine to that area to see what an opera looked like in person. It's visually stunning. As for the sound, well, the movie obviously uses the work of Mozart, so it's pretty good.
Pretty good! Pretty good!
Several professors of music have stated that after studying all of the musical keys struck on the pianos throughout the film, that not one key is struck incorrectly when compared to what is heard at the exact same moment. In other words, what you see is exactly what you hear. Every piece is played perfectly. Amadeus won the Grammy Award for Best Classical Album in 1984. Amadeus is not a musical, but comparing it to other musicals, I have to say the audio perfection here is on another level, and my ears were very happy by the end of the movie. Finally, we get to Salieri, the pious, envious, conniving Squidward to Mozart's SpongeBob. Antonio Salieri, played by Murray Abraham, is the court composer for Emperor Joseph II of Austria. He is an accomplished and respected musician and personally taught many big names, including Schubert, Liszt, and Beethoven. Then along came Mozart. Imagine being really good at piano, like top of your class good, only to have the new kid show up and make you look like you're still figuring out which end of the piano makes sound. That's Salieri's life in a nutshell. Salieri deeply admires Mozart's unparalleled talent, recognizing the genius in his compositions. However, his admiration quickly turns to jealousy and resentment as he becomes increasingly aware of Mozart's effortless brilliance compared to his own laborious skills. Salieri's jealousy leads him to become Mozart's rival. The contrast between them is stark. Mozart is carefree and irreverent, the kind of guy who'd show up to a job interview in pajamas if he thought it was funny. Salieri, on the other hand, is disciplined and devout, probably the type of guy who organizes his socks by color. This mismatch only fuels Salieri's jealousy. Salieri believes he deserves Mozart's talent and is envious that one so crude and undisciplined is so talented. He cannot reconcile Mozart's divine talent with his own religious devotion and the mediocrity he feels in his work. Consumed by envy, Salieri covertly sabotages Mozart's career while outwardly appearing as a friend and supporter. He manipulates circumstances to ensure Mozart struggles both financially and emotionally. Salieri's internal conflict is a key element of the film. He is tormented by the idea that God has chosen Mozart to be his voice, while Salieri, who has devoted his life to service, is left with mediocrity, in the fear that his music will die with him. This leads to a crisis of faith and a deep sense of betrayal by God. Abraham's portrayal of Salieri earned him widespread acclaim, including the Academy Award for Best Actor. What makes this feat even more impressive is that Abraham didn't know how to read music and had to learn prior to shooting. His performance captures the complexity of a man who is both sympathetic and villainous, driven by a tragic mixture of reverence and envy. When Amadeus released in 1984, it ironically brought back a renewed interest in Salieri's music. However, the movie sparked an even greater interest in Mozart's music. Once again, Salieri is foiled by Mozart's genius, even centuries later. So, is the 53rd best film of all time worth watching on movie night? My wife and I really enjoyed Amadeus. It was visually stunning, the characters were believable, and the plot and narration focusing on Salieri's jealousy and shaken faith leading to rivalry with Mozart was intriguing. And watching Tom Hulce's Mozart was just simply entertaining and caused several laughs. I definitely suggest you give Amadeus a watch. However, there are two reasons why you may not want to watch. Firstly, the runtime is 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's rather long. Secondly, for those of you who are sticklers for realism, the movie is highly fictionalized, with many liberations taken with the characters and happenings that are not quite accurate. The last Top 100 film my wife and I watched was about a bad man but a good cop. The next Top 100 film had a few plot twists that used the movie set in a way that was shocking to me, especially since it was released in the early 60s. I'll give you a riddle as a hint. In a Cold War tale with a sinister twist, a brainwashed pawn you can't resist. With mind control and a deadly fate, his target's a presidential's candidate. Subscribe and click the bell to find out what film it is whenever I release it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video, please leave a like. Here is Family Guy.
Ah, now that is a challenge.